Having a strong, flexible body is the greatest investment you can make in your jiu-jitsu. And this is why we've created a collection of simple programs designed to do just that. You'll build your strength, mobility, endurance, and coordination. And the best part is the programs are designed to fit into your busy life schedule. You don't need any training experience to start, and it's completely free to get started. Go to bulletproofforbjj.com and sign up for your free trial.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Cross-training, training at other gyms. Now, this can be a taboo subject, and I recently got to train.
If your coach is a dickhead.
Ooh, shots fired. Pew, pew. Well, it just depends. You know, there's been a bit of debate. We've talked about it before, but I want to just talk about my own very positive experiences recently. So, friend of mine, friend of Bulletproof, Keller Loxodi, he's opened his second gym.
The only man to ever put me out in competition.
Wow. And yes.
Because I only competed once.
Keller at purple belt was a force, even brown belt. Keller is a judo black belt and one of the most tightly, insanely strong, but one of the most tightly wound humans.
Yeah.
Very laid back to chat to, but to roll is not fun.
So strong.
So strong. He opened a second gym. So his gym is called Grappling Education.
Big no-gi gym. Wow.
They do gi as well.
Known for being no-gi, but yeah, here in Sydney.
Yes. And because they got so much demand for their no-gi classes, they've set up this second gym, which is only about 15 minutes away from the main gym, just to accommodate people who want to train no-gi when they have gi classes on, which is phenomenal. So I'm stoked for him. Congrats to them. And what was cool was it was on the public holiday here. We had a public holiday. I don't know exactly why that was. Maybe because it's
Labor Day,
the day after grand final.
Yeah, yeah, day off because you got a job.
Grand final hangover day. Here in Australia, grand final, I guess, is like our Super Bowl. What a final!
Yeah, of sorts.
Yeah,
I mean, we had three different grand finals on the one weekend.
On the one weekend,
yeah, it's like choose your Super Bowl, man.
Yeah, but I mean, 3 Super Bowls.
We're just very good at sport, guys. For our American listeners,
what can we say?
Extremely good at sports,
and we're extremely good at public holidays.
Yeah,
possibly the
and
best.
that's probably the number one thing in the upcoming referendum. People are like, they're going to come for our public holidays.
Oh no! Or maybe will they add some? That could be good.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, but no. Basically,
you learn a lesson in entrepreneurialism. When you run your own business, there are no days off. Public holidays don't mean shit.
No, that's it.
They're the days where you're like, man, I wish I had a 9 to 5 for some that I hated. Day off and just drink beers by someone's pool.
No,
now we're talking.
Just doing emails, making calls, following up on problems. But I mean, the cool thing was I went there and I didn't know who I'd see. And I saw Jess Fraser and I saw a bunch of people from other academies.
Wait, a Grappling Education?
Yeah.
Oh, she was there.
Yeah, it was cool. They just came up because it's kind of south of Sydney.
Yeah.
And so it's not far from the Wollongong, for those out there, the uninformed. So heaps of people who are not from that gym came to this open mat because heaps of gyms were closed. It was a public holiday. What that meant was I got to roll with people who I've never met and had some good rolls and some good chats. I had a chat to a guy from a completely different gym. He was actually just there with, I think, his son, and he'd hurt his back and he couldn't train. Right. But I got to sit down and talk with him, and there was like a really nice exchange. And I was like, oh, wow, that was very cool, because I asked him to roll. He said, nah.
You weren't overbearing in the conversation?
No, I was quite friendly.
You weren't critical of him not doing enough exercise?
He was a big unit.
Okay, you respected his size.
I did.
That's
and
nice.
I was like, fuck, do I want to roll this guy? And I was like, yeah, let's find out. He's heavily tattooed, big human. And I said, oh, do you want to roll, mate? And he said, my back. And I was like, shame.
Mate, don't re-injure it.
Be careful.
I've seen it too many times.
But no, it was cool. We just kind of had a chat.
He's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the back.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. So I got to interact with a bunch of people who I wouldn't normally see. It's quite a small space, but packed a lot of people in.
Yeah.
And they had like a bit of a barbie afterwards.
Nice.
Barbecue, which is nice. Nice social thing to do.
I tell you, I think the most exciting thing about this is that you were back on the mats.
Oh, well, yes. No, I train here and there where I can. But,
I know, but in recent months, you've had a big
I've trained
on, right?
less,
Trained
yes.
less
but I felt fine.
We're not going to talk about that, guys.
No, that's fine. I mean, the funny thing is I find that not training means I probably got less expectation and I just smash everyone. It's just, I was like, this is going to suck. Nah, I'm good. I'm
Because
good.
everyone's like, oh, JT's been off the mats. We'll just come in, chill roll.
No,
And JT's like,
there's
oh.
no chill rolls.
Yeah.
There's no chill rolls. People are like, hey, man, love the podcast. Let's roll. I was like, okay. And there was a huge Fijian guy there. I forget his name. He's friends with Dan Sester, actually.
Oh, he came through here one day.
He's a big rig.
Bro, I rolled that guy. He was a handful.
He's a handful, right? And he said to
He was like, yeah, he was like one of those dudes where you're like, it's an open mat here, and like, you know, trying to like, hey, what's going on, man? Where you from? Like, how long you been trying to get a vibe? You
Yeah,
know,
get a
because
feel.
no-gi, you don't know
you don't know their rank.
rank and stuff. And he was one of those guys that just didn't want. He's like, yeah, let's
go.
roll. And I'm like, what? And all I got was what Jim, and he's like, grappling education. I'm like, here we go.
His soul. He came for that no-gi smoke. And this, to be honest, it was actually like a pretty good roll. But the weird thing was,
Pretty good means that you did all right.
no, like it was like competitive. Like I was like, oh, I actually wasn't sure how the roll was going to go. But he grabbed my forearm, and I was like, oh shit, he got big hands.
Yeah.
And he went, God, you got thick wrists. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Your wrists are thicker than my bloody calf muscles, bro. Like, he's a solid human. Anyway, we had a roll, and he said, oh, I'm friends with Dan Sester. So I said, right, I'm going to smash this guy.
Wrist lock this fall.
I'm him up so he can deliver a message to Sester. Tell Sest, I bashed you, bruh. Nah. Anyway, it was a good roll. We had a good chat. And what I wanted to say out of this was, I never met him. I had a chat with him. He says trained for 10 years, but he only ever rolls like once a week. So he regrets that he's not further down the path than he should be.
Right.
When he says, oh, I've rolled for 10 years, you're like, oh, so you're a black belt, you're a brown belt? It's like, no, I'm like blue, coming up on purple. But that's the hard thing. Many people, I think the great thing about going to a different gym is you meet people and their journey is so unique. And so even though he's a total handful, he's a huge unit, jiu-jitsu is very good. When you roll no-gi, no one's wearing, you know, not everyone wears like ranked rash guards.
No, they want to wear their cool rash guard to the open.
Yeah.
They got the new parry drip.
Yeah, they got that bright
Look at
green.
this shit that I got from
Yeah.
Show Roll or something.
That's right. And so, yeah, it was an awesome experience. The other thing was awesome to see all the familiar crew. Went down to Garage Wollongong last weekend.
Oh, it was a big weekend of jiu-jitsu for JT.
Mate, week, yeah. So it was like went on the
next
Monday and then the following
Saturday.
Saturday went down.
I was at my parents' place. I would have come if I wasn't feeling sick and I didn't have shit booked in with the family.
Yeah, you were indisposed.
But yeah, that sounded cool.
Bro, it was great. It's Ryan down there, runs Garage Wollongong.
Is it Ryan Walsh? He's a lovely guy.
Lovely guy.
Really good jits too. Like really nice guy to roll with. Like
Incredibly friendly, always very welcoming.
Yeah.
Also like very savvy with the S&C.
yeah,
Yeah, they're big supporters of Bulletproof down there. They got our posters on the wall.
yeah,
Super nice.
yeah.
It was
You feel that like there is always a warm welcome there, and
yeah.
and definitely like we have exchanges on Instagram and stuff, and he's across it with his strength and mobility work.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, you know, when you're talking about having conversations where someone's like, haven't trained in a while, look, I'm working on it. Like they feel there's some strange accountability that because you're a strength coach, they got to explain why maybe.
Yeah.
Like he's like, yeah, shoulder's not 100%, but I'm working on it. I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I'm like, man, no judgment.
My son,
Yeah.
you have my blessing.
You're good.
Let me get this bulletproof water real quick.
Bless you. Robustness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Jess was down
Jess
there too,
was
right?
there. I had a roll with her and her gang. There's a bunch of black belts there. A bunch of black belts came through from a few other gyms. So I'm not I don't know if there's a cross training rule with them because they're from a competitive gym to this gym. So
No names mentioned.
we'll not name them, but they have some big humans, like
Yeah.
3 much bigger guys than me,
Yeah.
like significantly taller, big, strong humans, black belts rolling. And I was like, fucking wow. And also our learned friend, James Smith PT.
Oh, your boy.
Yeah, boy.
The Instagram superstar.
Bro.
How
And,
good.
yeah, it was awesome. He to his credit, he had done the class before the open mat.
Right.
And they were getting after it. And I was just chilling, drinking my water, sipping my water, doing my mobility. I was like, I'm going to get him when he's tired. And what was quite funny, because he said, oh, mate, let's have a roll. I was like, yeah, cool. And he said, just so you know, I did weights and a full class before this. And I was like, dude, it's fine. He's a big rig. He's
Yeah, he
what,
looks like a big guy.
6'2". He's pretty, he's as He's easily a 100-kilo human.
Man, I've heard from people he's a real handful, and I've seen his like his comp footage and stuff, posts, and he looks like fucking great on the
He's
mats.
undefeated at purple belt.
Wow.
He said that to me. He's like, he's like, when I first came to purple, I didn't really care. I don't have too much expectation. But he's like, now I really care about jiu-jitsu. It's kind of in my head. Like, I don't want to lose, Like, he's like, it means so much more to me now. And that's cool because for those of you out there who don't know who he is, just Google him. He's a pretty famous cat.
He's got more followers than us on Instagram.
By a bit. Was it 1.2 million?
Yeah, he crossed it. He's in the millions.
He's in the millions of followers. And the cool thing was, I wasn't sure, because I've seen him, he's trained with Craig. He was over in Texas.
Yep.
Did an interview with him for the podcast. He trains in London. He's a Londoner originally, and he trains at Hodger Gracie's, which is a super tough mat. And what was cool, and this is what I want to kind of speak to about this cross-training thing, I didn't expect him to be there. He was there. We got to have a couple roles, and I also secondhand learnt a lot of different information just from having chats. And he was talking about the difference between training at Hodger Gracie's gym and training at B Team. And he said, B Team is far more relaxed. I said, really? He said, yeah, because dudes are training really hard multiple times a day. They come in pretty cruisy. I mean, obviously it ramps up. But he said at Hodger Gracie's, this is out the gate, boom, shorter session, much more intense. And those guys who show up for those sessions, they're not training twice a day every day. Only a couple of the pros are. Yeah. So they just bring way more heat. And when he went to Texas and he was in London.
The 3 day a week hobbyist can be much more of a handful of a role than the
so aggressive
than the 2 a days like world champion kind of
just
get
my roles in.
Aspiree, whatever it is.
Yeah, aspiree. That could be a word.
That's a thing.
So yeah, man, that was cool. So I learned a bunch from him. Just chatting to him, had some good roles, and it was cool. And I think you do learn a lot about how someone is by the way they roll. And that was like a really cool experience.
What do you think he learned about you the way you rolled?
He asked me, how many years you been black belt? I said, 5 and a bit. He's like, cool. He was like, okay. And I was like, how long have you been training? He's like, 6 years, 7 years. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, yeah, I'm about 15 years now. And I think what he learned about the way I roll is I roll slow but hard. So I don't go mental. I don't move a lot, but I also don't give an inch at all. Everyone's like, man, you're pressure, bro. Like, you're pressure. And that's like, I don't really think about it, but that's what I've learned is to try to control the roll. And I think one of my old students, Tom, the audacity on Tom, he said, you're like the slug of death. It's like, I imagine what it would be like to be eaten by a slug. And that's what it's like rolling with you.
Yeah, right on.
It's like, God, that's fun.
Well, what does that tell him about your character?
I don't know. Am I a complete quit? Maybe. No, it was good because we had one roll which was kind of harder. And then he's like, now we had our hard roll, let's have our technical roll. And we moved around a bit more. And yeah, he's good. He's good on the legs. And he's positionally very good.
And how's your leg game? Like, I know that you've always had a good leg game.
Pretty good.
But I know that it's also come a long way.
Pretty good. I don't try and attack it.
Yeah.
Only if someone goes, right, let's dual legs. And I'm like, let's sling these things. Let's test those ligaments. You want to find out? Come get that smoke.
Then you'll play that game.
Yeah, I love it. I'm like, well, you're not Lachlan Giles, so I'm going to fuck you up. Or you're not Craig Jones. You're not going to catch me with that. And what's interesting is to see people who try to emulate those games but don't do it as well. And I'm like,
surely that's everyone who's not those two people, right?
No, because many people learn their leg locks from different people and different entries and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, it's cool, man. And I think what's interesting about going to different gyms is seeing how a person rolls with other people. So like what I notice about James, which I really respect, when he's rolling someone smaller, he moves more and he's lighter. But if he's rolling someone bigger and stronger and technically better, he rolls harder. And that tells me a lot about a person's ability to kind of gauge themselves. Yeah, which is cool. I like that. I try to roll like that as well. And then
was Jean there? Jean Alves?
Yeah.
She's a legend.
Yeah, man. There's so many good female black belts that train down there.
She was like a true superhero as I saw her when I was a white and blue belt.
Yeah,
it was like this tall, dark, like great looking, like
Yeah.
strong, like broad woman,
Yeah.
black belt, like, whoa, because, you didn't really see black belts around back then,
Yeah.
and it was like, damn,
Yeah, really like was a forerunner for women's jiu-jitsu in that way.
Yeah.
But no, man, I think people who are not doing this is the thing. I came away from both experiences just being like, that was a lot of fun. It was so good. And I don't know if that's just because it was open mat.
Right, I love this shit.
Bro, but it was rolling with people who I'd never rolled before. I think there's a huge value in that. Because you probably would have experienced this, Joe, where even like you and me rolling, you're like, oh, this guy's going to do the same old. This guy's going to store me here.
He's going to wait for me to pull guard and then do some cartwheel bullshit.
Oh, Joey's going to go for that.
Same thing where
Sit
he
over
passes my
arm
guard
bar.
and submits me every time. He's so predictable.
No, I'm talking more. You would even find when you train with the same people all the time, you know each other's games.
Yeah.
And it's really...
There's a dynamic that you're grooved in.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get out of that.
It's hard unless someone does something very left of center.
Yeah.
And it can get a little bit unfun.
Bam, Joey pulls the takedown, bitch. What now?
Oh my
That's
God.
Right.
Gonna have to play guard. I mean, you train with a few different people, even though you're pretty consistent at certain spots. You get a bit of value out of rolling a new person or a new game?
always, man. I've always loved open mats for that. I think that's what makes them so special. That said, I don't really go to a lot of open mats these days because I don't know, it's harder, right?
Fitting it in with the schedule.
Yeah, make less time for rolling. But like I went to a couple of weeks ago, I went back to Vantage.
Yes.
Because I had a mate up from Adelaide. This is a cool story, actually.
Is this the big brown belt?
Paulo,
Oh my God, he was
a friend of mine. We met at Blue Belt, and I don't remember how we met, but he's a Peruvian guy, and he was living in Adelaide, which is a city in the south here of Australia. I think I met him because he just stopped in at the dojo back when I was a Blue Belt, and he was just like, "This is a cool gym. You guys are cool guys," and like hung out for a couple of months.
Nice.
And then, we sort of became mates and would catch up every now and again. Anyway, I haven't seen him since Blue Belt.
Oh, wow.
Since we had a famous night out, actually, in the city. And I can tell you that after if you like.
There's another story.
But he's like, bro, I'm back in Sydney for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and I'm at Vantage. Do you know it? I'm like, bro, that's my home gym. He's like, oh, Adam's such a cool guy, man. I'm like, dude. He said, come and train. So I went in like 2 nights that week.
Yep.
Or like one night and then one night the next week. Great to get. So we're both black belts now. Like, it was just amazing that like nothing's changed, right? In terms of us being friends.
That's cool.
And I think that's really nice when you're like, oh, wow, like those connections that you make do just carry on forever.
In the journey.
Assuming whatever,
staying on the path.
You don't sleep with someo's girlfriend or something. Whatever it is that makes people fall out.
That guy wrist locked me.
Yeah, worse. But yeah, it's cool, man. I took Leo along and trained. And so anyway, that was like, I hadn't rolled with ads for ages.
I did see that, yeah.
Jumped back on, rolled with Big Eric, and
he's such a handful.
He really is, man. And in that way, it's like when I go back there, because I'm not there regularly, it's kind of like
you feel like it's
I got there's these new like young guys there that are like, hey man, listen to the show, can we roll and shit? You're like, yeah, sure. And you're like, oh, this mother bringing the heat.
Yeah.
And it gives you that same feeling.
Yeah, I think that's also a different thing now. And I guess, for those of you who have trained with us and do know us, it's all good. If you don't, watch out. But no, people do come up and be like, hey man, love the podcast. Let's have a roll. And in my head, I'm like, oh, am I going to lose a fan right now? Am I about to make someone like give me a 1-star rating? So, I mean, I don't know. I always ask everyone I roll. I'm always like, oh, how long have you been training? Always. And you just go,
you got to get a gauge.
If you've been in the game 10 years, that tells a lot about just who you are as a person. But if someone's like, oh, I've been training 3 months, 5 days and 6 hours, you're like, all right, cool. All right, well, we'll see how we go. I've tried to be nice.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing that I got from this was not like, oh, I learned a bunch of techniques, but I learned way more about people's jiu-jitsu stories, and they're so different. And that, for me, it opens my mind up more about just so many people engaging with this thing now. And the experience for everyone is so different because some people came from traditional martial arts, or you've got Craig Fitzgibbon, who was ex-pro
NRL.
NRL player.
Newcastle, was he Newcastle Knights?
Yeah, I think so. Man,
He's down at Garage,
he's
isn't
so strong, dude.
he? Is he?
And he's quite lean. Like he doesn't seem huge. Big frame, like broad shoulders.
He's slimmed down.
Duh, he's so strong. It's that Alex Volkanovski strength, bro. That ex-pro athlete.
Windang water.
Bruh, man, they go hard. So, because I kind of like, I know this guy. Who's this guy? And just like, that's Craig Fitzgibbon. He was the captain. And then you go, oh, me, right. And so I think I even saw something recently that like the Denver Nuggets basketball team was doing jiu-jitsu. And I was like, how interesting. They're doing that as a form of cross-training.
Yeah.
And they're all lying on their back trying to do shrimps and they're all gassing out because they have no ability to get up off their back. They're all like 6'5", 7 foot tall.
When I dropped in at Vantage, there was a guy, Ads had a new guy, you could tell he was new, he was kind of standing around a bit awkward and, and put on his gi and belt was all fucked up, you know. And I was like, hey, bro. And his name was Joseph. He was like, hey, I'm Joe. I was like, oh, Joe, nice to meet you, bro. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, man, this motherfucker's a specimen, like big, tall guy.
Big rig.
Probably about that much on me, you know, like wide. I'm like, rugby league? He said, yeah. And I was like, who you play for? And he said, play for East. And I was like, what grade? And he said, Premier. And I was like, okay.
My guy.
And I Googled him afterwards and he's on, plays for Roosters.
Quite famous.
But it was just so funny. Yeah, I was like, first jiu-jitsu class? He said, yeah, it is, man. And I'm like, what's the deal? Like off season, but how long, And he said, our off season's like, I think he said they got like 8 weeks or something.
Yeah.
He's like,
and then they do preseason.
Yeah, and then I'm back into it. But I was like, you going to continue this? He said, I'd like to. But I was just thinking, I don't
risk
see
of
how
injury.
Yeah, surely, right?
It's worth too much money.
If your sport is your career, don't do jiu-jitsu.
No. But I think the unlock for me is I always feel a little, not apprehensive, but like I don't want to be rude by going to a new gym. Like I always tend to I'll just message the person, like the head coach, or be like, hey, I was thinking of coming to this class or this open mat. Is that cool? Blah, blah. And I don't think I've ever had anyone say no, but I've had warmer and cooler responses depending on what's going on. And but the thing that I love, or the thing that I've gotten way more out of it, is understanding people in jiu-jitsu. Doing jiu-jitsu, having those conversations, it's awesome. And I think anyone who's not, even if you're very early in the journey, I think there's huge value in going somewhere else to just see how they might do it differently. And the culture.
Yeah.
That was the thing too. There was a lot of kids down at Garage in Wollongong. Just like a gang of kind of 7 to 10-year-old boys just running around, like just hoisting small dumbbells and punching the hell out of the grappling dummy and just chaos around the edge of the mat.
Not training, their parents were training or
Parents
something?
are training, but it was a very welcome, like, family environment.
Yeah.
And I know there'd be other gyms where that probably wouldn't be as like permissible, but it was nice. It was nice. It made me go, oh, that's really cool. Like some gyms are like dog friendly. So there's a section like where people can leave their dogs out the front and that someone's keeping an eye on them.
Yeah.
I think things like this open up your mind to how broad jiu-jitsu culture can be, and then what that does to just make you love it. I think that's the thing. Take away the techniques, take away the performance and everything else that goes with it. The experience of being around people who care about a kind of shared interest and being relaxed and happy in that environment is amazing. And if you don't feel that way at your gym, I'm not saying, oh, you got to leave your gym. You might be the seed of change. You might say to your coach, hey, could we try this or could we do that? And the culture then evolves and then it becomes a better place because of you. You don't have to automatically just leave. But it is definitely worthwhile to just go somewhere else and get a feel. I think it's possibly the most enriching experience for me is having had the freedom to go and train other places and connect with more people. I think that's what I love about it, and that's why I'm such a big advocate for it.
Listen to you.
Bro, I'm preaching.
When are you training next?
What?
Next public holiday.
3 months. No. I'll be training on. I'm going down to Melbourne doing some seminars down there.
Yep.
So I'll probably get a cheeky roll in Saturday morning. Absolute. Get in early.
Nice.
No gi. Just traveling is easier in no gi.
Yeah, always.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go down there, connect with the fam. It's all good. It's the best. If you can kind of tie in a holiday with like a bit of jiu-jitsu, it's awesome.
Yeah. That is.
All right.
Go hit up. We'll see you at the next Open, Matt.
Ooh, cross train, baby.